Let's begin with something raw and honest. Your ego is not going to like this awakening. In fact, it's going to hate it. Because from the ego's perspective, spiritual awakening is death. The death of everything it thought it was, everything it identified with, and everything it clings to for control and survival. Awakening in non-duality isn't about becoming a better version of your ego. It's not about polishing it, healing it, or feeding it spiritual quotes until it's calm. It's about seeing through it. And when you begin to see through the ego, when you start waking up to what you really are, something terrifying happens to that separate sense of me. It begins to feel like it's disappearing. And it panics. Let's be real. The ego has been in charge of your life for years, maybe decades. It's the one that built your identity. It decided what you should fear, what you should desire, what you should defend, and what success or failure looks like. It convinced you that you are the voice in your head, that you are the thoughts and stories that constantly play inside your mind. And now, suddenly, you're turning your attention toward the stillness behind all that noise, toward silence, toward the space where the ego doesn't exist. So of course it resists. It freaks out. It throws everything at you to win you back. And make no mistake, your ego has every trick in the book. It knows you better than any enemy. It will use fear. It will use shame. It will even use spirituality. Yes, the ego can become spiritually clever. It will pretend to be awakened. It will say things like, "You've already transcended," or "You're beyond ego now," just so it can sneak back in and regain control. It can wear the mask of peace while secretly feeding on pride, superiority, or denial. The deeper you go into awakening, the more subtle these tricks become. The ego won't just say, "You're not enough anymore." It will say, "You're better than others because you've awakened." And that's the trap. That's ego in disguise. Ego doesn't care whether you're spiritual or not. It just wants to stay alive. It doesn't care if you meditate or chant mantras, as long as you still believe you're a separate person doing those things. As long as it keeps you identified with a story, any story, it survives. Now here's where it gets difficult. As you go through awakening, it's not always peaceful or blissful. The early stages can feel like a war zone. There's the pull toward freedom, truth, and presence. And there's the voice of fear, telling you you're losing yourself, that you're going crazy, that you're unsafe, that your life is falling apart. And in a way, it is, but only the life that the ego built. The life based on illusions, attachments, false security. This is what we call ego death. And let me be clear, it's not poetic or romantic when it hits. It can feel like depression, confusion, restlessness, or deep emotional chaos. You might cry without knowing why. You might feel totally disconnected from the world. You might even feel like you're dying. And that's because, from the ego's view, you are. The sense of control is unraveling. The stories no longer hold power. The masks are falling off. The mind is losing grip. So the ego tightens. It screams. It resists. And this resistance doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're getting close to something real. This is where you have to be very gentle with yourself. Because when the ego gets loud, you'll be tempted to run back to old patterns. You'll want to numb out, to distract, to chase validation, to fix what you think is wrong with you. But don't. Stay. Breathe. Be still. Because this discomfort is not a sign to escape. It's a sign that illusion is dying. The pain is not you being broken. The pain is the false you dissolving. The ego will whisper, "You're losing control." But control was never real. The ego will say, "You're disappearing." But what disappears is the illusion, not the truth. What remains is awareness. What remains is what you truly are. Spacious, formless presence. And that presence doesn't need to argue. It doesn't need to win. It doesn't need to defend. It just is. Here's something powerful to remember. The ego is not evil. It's not the enemy. It's just scared. It was created to protect you. It built itself from childhood wounds, trauma, praise, pain, and survival. It thinks it's keeping you safe. So when you stop feeding it, it panics like a child being left behind. But awakening isn't about killing the ego. It's about seeing that you are not it. You are not that fearful, defensive voice. You are not the one who needs to hold everything together. You are the one who sees it all, watches it all, and remains untouched. So what can you do when the ego fights back? You don't fight it. Fighting just creates more ego. You watch. You allow. You bring awareness to its movements. You feel the fear, the doubt, the rage, but you don't identify with it. You hold it like a storm in the sky of your being. And slowly, its power begins to fade. Not because you conquered it, but because you no longer believe it's you. And yes, it will come back in waves, especially when you're vulnerable, tired, or triggered. The ego is persistent, but every time you rest as awareness, every time you choose presence over reaction, its grip weakens. You're reconditioning your nervous system to truth. You're learning how to be without a mask, how to breathe without needing a story. This process is messy. It's raw. Some days, it will feel like you've lost everything. Your sense of self, your ambition, your relationships. But what's actually happening is that the false layers are falling away. What remains is silence, clarity, stillness. A grounded, wordless knowing that doesn't come from the mind. And eventually, the ego becomes quieter. It doesn't vanish, but it no longer runs the show. It becomes more like a background voice that rises now and then, but no longer hooks you. It's just seen as part of the human experience, not who you are. This is the freedom non-duality points to. Not freedom from emotions or challenges, but freedom from the illusion that you are the one who needs to fix or control them. Freedom from the separate self that clings, resists, and fears. Freedom from the inner war. So yes, the ego is going to resist this process. It will scream, manipulate, pretend, seduce, distract. But the fact that it's screaming is proof that it knows its time is running out. Truth doesn't need defense. Awareness doesn't need to prove itself. Only the false fights for survival. And as that false sense of self dies, something deeper is born. Not as a new identity, but as a recognition of what's always been here. You, not the thinker, not the doer, not the one trying to awaken. Just the awareness, the silence, the stillness. And the more you return to that, the less power the ego has. So let it scream. Let it resist. Let it fight. And just keep being here, awake, aware, and unshaken. Because what you are cannot die. Only the illusion can. Thank you for watching and being here. If this message spoke to you and you're ready to go deeper into your spiritual journey, check out my book. Awaken Your Spiritual Power. It's a powerful guide to help you reconnect with your true self beyond the noise of the ego and the illusions of the world. Now, available on Amazon. Get yourself a copy today and change your life. Just search Awaken Your Spiritual Power, or you can click the link in the description below for intro. Keep awakening. The real you is already here. Namaste.